Hey everybody, it's Peculus here. Hope you're doing okay with everything that's going on in the world. You know, it's amazing how you sort of look around and everything is so different now. Like it's everything that seemed predictable before is like up in the air now, and I know how you're feeling. It's like almost like things can be unpredictable and scary as well, you know. And that got me thinking about horses, no surprise. And that I thought, you know, they see the world differently all the time. And I thought maybe it would be a good way for us to kind of look into that a little bit and kind of appreciate their view of the world. So first of all, like as a practical matter, horses see differently literally because their eyes are so far on the side of their head. So horses have what's called monocular vision. Just to be clear, the horse does have some binocular vision. It's just only at the front. It's his monocular vision that sees all the way around him. So when a horse is traveling in one direction, they'll see everything with this eye. But when he comes back and he's going that way, he's looking at everything with a different eye. And so I find a lot of less experienced riders perhaps get frustrated with the horse because they feel like, well, you just went by it to the right a minute ago. How can you be afraid of it coming by to the left? But for the horse, he's really seeing it again for the first time. And that's why sometimes it will startle him the second time. Another thing about the horse's vision, that he's got quite a blind spot in front of him and behind him. We always tell students, right, if you can't see the horse's eye, the horse cannot see you. So, you know, obviously you never walk up behind a horse, but I won't even come up and touch a horse on the shoulder if I can't see his eye. Like, let's say, this is Gus, by the way. Let's say if Gus was looking way over there somehow, and his head was turned right around there, and I couldn't see his eye, I can still startle him by touching his shoulder because he didn't see me coming, right? So it's always important as a safety thing that you make sure that you can see your horse's eye. The other thing about horses is they have a lot of trouble seeing above and below their eyes. So I don't know if you've ever seen like a horse, and I tried to get a video of this, but we couldn't get one of the horses to do it today, of course. But, you know, if they see something like, let's say right there, I'm going to do my horse impression now, but, you know, if they see something there that sort of startles them a little bit, you'll see the horse kind of does this, and they'll tilt their head. And that's because they can't really see it. Like, you'll see sometimes people will take a horse up to something that's frightening to them, and they'll make the horse stand like this and stare at it. And it's really not very fair, because the horse can't really see it like that. The other thing is a horse, like, they can't see below their eyes either, right? So when they're eating grass, they can't even see the grass that they're eating. They just have to kind of find it by smell or by their whiskers, which again is one of the reasons why whiskers are so hugely important. In fact, I'll link below this video, and you can see our other video on whiskers, because they really, really are important. They're sensory things for horses, and we should never get rid of them. So now we go back to their blind spots. So we have, if you put your hand out this way, and you hold your finger out like that, you know, you can kind of, if you look with your peripheral vision, it takes a while before you can see your finger, right? With a horse, his range of vision is huge. So the horse can see all the way, like 350 degrees around him. There's kind of a spot down the middle of his back that he can't see, but everything around to the side of him he can see. And but that blind spot at the front is a real problem. And add to that the fact that the horse's acuity is not nearly as good as ours. In fact, they say that the horse has to be, I think it's about 50% closer to anything that he's looking at in order to see it as clearly as we see it. So then you have to say to yourself, what a generous and wonderful creature this is that will canter up to a big fence. When he can't see it from about 6 feet away, he has no idea where it is anymore, and he had to get 50% closer to it in order to be able to see it as clearly as we can see it, and still they jump it for us, which is really kind of special when you think about it. And going back to that 350 degree range of vision, like the horse is hardwired to notice change and to see movement, right? They're meant to be able to go along in a big open wide space and see everything that might be moving in the grass way over the field. And that is why, again, you know, from the horse's point of view, if he's going past, let's say, a garbage can, and somebody moved the garbage can 3 feet away from the wall when it usually is right up against the wall. And, you know, again, the horse owner will ride the horse by and they'll go, for goodness sakes, it's a garbage can. It's been there for months, you know. But for the horse, the garbage can is now 3 feet away from the wall. And he knows he doesn't get a second chance. And that's the thing with horses. He knows that if there's a lion in the garbage can, it's a fatal mistake if he decides to wait and see if he pops out. So horses think completely differently than we do about these kind of things. The other thing, and I know this sounds kind of silly and people think this is a weird way to look at it, but I always think to myself, for horses, when they deal with us, they're surrounded by what must seem fairly miraculous to them, right? Like, because they'll be, let's say in the wintertime, you come out in the morning, it's dark outside, and with a mere flick of your wrist, let there be light. The horses are all of a sudden completely illuminated. They were standing in the dark a moment ago, and your very presence has brought the light, you know? And then another miracle, you go into a room and you bring out forage and hay for them. You have grain with no fields, you know, you have water with no rivers and lakes. Like, the horse must just go, my gosh, these people are amazing. Like, they can just do anything, right? But because of that, you know, sometimes you'll have people, they'll say, you know, have you ever tried to soak a horse's foot? And sometimes you'll see people will put the bucket down, they'll put the bucket down and they expect the horse to step into the bucket when there's water in the bucket. You think to yourself, for heaven's sakes, I know that's a bucket, I know there's concrete underneath the bucket, but for the horse, he has no idea how deep the water is, and stranger things have happened when he's working with us, right? So there very well may a magic trick that when we put a black bucket down and put water in it, that water goes right down to Middle Earth for all he knows, right? So the horse is not being irrational in that, he just can't see the bottom, and that's why he doesn't want to step in. Am I boring you? The last thing I think that is one of the most important parts about horses that we should always keep in mind is if you look at where our eyes are set on our head, if you look at your dog, if you look at a cat, and then you notice where the horse's eyes are set on his head. Our eyes are on the front of our head and they're meant to focus and be able to chase down prey. The horse's eyes are on the side of his head because he's hardwired to see us coming. That's something we should never forget when we deal with horses. We are in his mind a predator, and the fact that he trusts us, it's a pretty big deal. He works with us. So that's it for this week. If you are watching this anywhere besides at our blog, which is ismyhorsehappy.com, go on over there, scroll down, leave us a message. Let us know how you're making out right now with everything that's going on in the world, and we'll keep working on our we'll keep working on our view of the world as we learn to appreciate the horse's view of the world. And remember to thank your horse. We'll see you next week.